what's going on? It's Monday. How's it going? It's time for stream time. I'm Jamie Delphine, coming to you from Los Angeles, the Satan's asshole, as the rest of us are referring to it this week. It is hot as shit, and I had a heat nap. So I did not get a lot of time to shoot these news clips before stream, so we're gonna do them live. We're gonna do news for people that have a job, clips really quick because, hey, what's up, Jules? How's it going? Got a 25 stream streak. Good to see you. Good to see you. I didn't get these filmed today because it was hot and I was passed out from the heat, taking a nap up until like, I don't know, 30 minutes ago. So I'm a little disoriented. I've got 5 news stories. I'm gonna read the clips and I'm gonna clip them later for stream for content this week. I'm still waking up, kind of, so bear with me. I then, after stream, I have a hard out because I'm going to be going to a political event. Not going to mention which one. Some people that watch stream do follow me, and if you're there, cool. If not, I don't want you to go just because I'm going to show up. I have this weird hair on my forehead. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the news clips. First off, how's everybody doing? How are you doing today, Jules? How's it going out there where you're at? And hopefully it's not as hot as it is here. It is ridiculously hot here, and my news clips are going to probably suffer a little bit because I have to run this AC. It is so hot. I probably sound a little bit robotic. Do I sound like a robot, Jules? You're getting Robo Jamie this week. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and knock these out so I can, I want to watch, AOC went on the Majority Report, and I wanted to check that out, and see if maybe we could get that. You think I sound fine? Okay, cool. Maybe the software is softwaring. If you can't hear the hum, the buzz, then it's the noise cancellation is working really well. So I'm going to read these 5 stories. I've got a recap at the end. That's 6 clips. I'm going to get them out of the way, and then we'll get on to watching videos. So thanks for being here. This part's a little it's not as interactive as I always thought it was going to be, but these clips do really well. And these are genuine news stories that are real. All the sources are in the Discord. So if you want to check any of the sources on what I'm about to go through, please feel free to check the Discord. So a bank stood up in federal court and said out loud, on the record, Trump's own company tripped their money laundering. God, let me go again. So a bank's chat. Today is the day that I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So a bank just stood up in federal court and said out loud on the record that Trump's own company tripped their money laundering schemes. Their money laundering alarms. God dang it. Okay, here we go. One more time. A bank just stood up in federal court and said out loud on record that Trump's own company tripped their money laundering alarms. So back in 2021, Capital One shut down over 300 Trump Organization bank accounts, and the reason just dropped, buried in a court filing, because Eric Trump and the Trump Organization had sued the bank in March 2025. They'd claimed that Capital One killed the accounts for political reasons and for the retaliation on January 6th. Insurrection. So the reason is so mind-blowing because it's the first time a bank has actually put money laundering concerns and Trump's business in the same sentence in an actual legal document under actual legal consequences for lying. Capital One isn't charging anyone with a crime. They're just saying our compliance team looked at this and did not like what it saw. And once again, Trump would have done a lot better just keeping his crusty old orange mouth shut. So again, 300 plus accounts all closed in 2021. And the Trump lawsuit filed 4 years later in Florida federal court called the whole thing woke retaliation, which is a hell of a word to slap on your own bank's anti-money laundering department. So here's the actual question. I'd love for everyone to answer in the comments. The Capital One closure, who is that protecting? Let me know in chat. Let me know in the comments below. That's crazy, isn't it? What do we think about that one? Did you hear about that yet, Jules? Literally closed his accounts because they were concerned about money laundering. And it was not public information. until Eric Trump decided to go kick in the bee's nest. So this one's huge. We've been tracking it for a while. I think it's one of the clearest definitions of corruption in politics, or at least American politics, and just how far we've lost the plot when it comes to campaign finance and allowing outside influence into our politics. So tomorrow, Michigan votes in a Senate primary. Outside groups have already spent $68 million trying to make people's decisions for them. Since July 1st, super PACs have poured almost $27 million into boosting Haley Stevens and a measly $2 million into Abdul El Sayed. And that's almost 13 to 1. Groups tied to AIPAC alone put in close to $30 million. The single biggest bet that organization has ever placed on one race anywhere ever. But not $1 of that 68 million came from someone standing in line at a Michigan DMV. It came from national groups sitting in offices hundreds of miles away who looked at 8 million Michiganders and thought, we'll take it from here. That's $68.46 million in total paid media. And that makes this the second most expensive Democratic Senate primary in American history. And the votes haven't even been counted yet. This is the price tag before a single ballot drops. And if it takes $68 million in outside money to nudge an outcome into place, here's the real question I'd like you to answer in the comments. Just how much is the actual voting still doing? And does voting still matter? What do you think, Jules? You got $68 million in outside money. Is this democracy? Are we doing a democracy? Are we still doing democracy? Is that what this is? Can we even call it that anymore? All right. Next one. For the first time in almost 5 years, rent in Los Angeles County is going down. And you can write that on a calendar because none of us has ever seen it happen in our adult lives. And the median asking rent across LA County dropped to $2,603 a month, the cheapest it's been in nearly 5 years. And the reason isn't a rent freeze or a ballot measure, it's apartments. A lot of them got built all at once, faster than people showed up to live in them. And more homes than people chasing them equals lower rent. That's it. Landlords found themselves competing for tenants instead of the other way around, which is a sentence that hasn't been true in LA since roughly the Clinton administration. So rent is currently down to $2,603 a month countrywide, and it's happening because a construction surge is still working its way through the pipeline right now. More units are on the way. So rent went down because the supply went up. Don't let anyone else sell it any other way. It's simple enough to fit on a bumper sticker. So here's a question for you to answer in the comments. Why does every other proposed fix, every task force, every subsidy, every 10-point plan manage to leave that part out? What do we think, Jules? Cheaper rent? It's a good thing. Rent getting cheaper in our lifetime was not a bet I would have hedged. This one's big and it's international. And I think it just shows again the power of the working class. So let's get this clip out of the way so I can get on to the biggest story of the day. And then we'll do the roundup. And then we'll get on to watching AOC on the Majority Report before I get out of here. Okay. Over 4,000 flight attendants just grounded Canada's second biggest airline. And the thing they're actually fighting over? Work the airline never even called work. WestJet flight attendants, represented by CUPE, walked off the job this week after contract talks fell apart. And by Sunday, the strike had already canceled 309 flights, which translates to a lot of uneaten peanuts. Here's the twist. This isn't even really about the wage numbers splashed across the headlines. It's about boarding and securing the cabin. It's about getting 180 people and their oversized carry-ons off a plane in under 4 minutes. All of that has been unpaid, this entire time because the airline simply decided it didn't count as work. Ask any flight attendant when their job actually starts. It's not when the wheels leave the ground. And over 4,000 flight attendants are on strike. 309 flights have been canceled, and that number is still climbing. So, this is Canada's second largest airline, stopped cold. But if the flight literally cannot happen without that unpaid time, here's a question I'd like you guys to answer in the comments. How exactly is that not a job? That's what I would like to know. If something is required for the business to operate, that's a job. You should get paid for that. And I can tell you that from personal experience. All right. This is the biggest story of the day. It's following on with our theme of money and politics. We'll get this one done, and then I'll get the roundup done, and then we'll watch AOC on the Majority Report. Okay. Excuse me. So while climate disasters rack up bills across the entire globe, Big Oil is about to walk out and tell you exactly how much money it made off you this quarter. This year, Exxon posted $14.5 billion in profit. Chevron came in at $12.1 billion. Shell more than doubled its profit year over year, landing at $9.84 billion. And BP reports tomorrow. And every signal in the room says, expect another blockbuster. And these aren't earnings reports, they're victory laps. So let's be clear about what this isn't. This isn't a struggling industry white knuckling it through a rough economy. These are some of the best quarters these companies have ever posted. At the exact same time, the disasters their products like help fuel are sending the bill to literally everyone else. So profits keep climbing, disasters keep climbing right along with them. So here's the question I'd love you to answer in the comments. Who exactly is footing the difference? That one's stark. That's a huge one. These are record profits in the oil industry, chat. It's getting insane. It's getting insane. Okay, we're going to do the 1 minute news recap and then we'll move on to the video. Capital One just told a federal court on the record that Trump's own company set off its money laundering alarms. Over 300 of Trump's accounts were closed in 2021, but it took a lawsuit to drag it all out into the daylight. Who'd have thought that a convicted felon, fraud, and adjuncted rapist would have gone into money laundering? Who had the time? Michigan votes tomorrow. Outside groups already voted with their wallets, $68 million worth, including almost $30 million from AIPAC-aligned PACs backing a single candidate. Is voting just a quaint, pointless custom now? LA County just hit a 5-year low. Turns out the 5 was never... I gotta redo the whole thing. I need it tight so I can edit it tight. Sorry, chat. Capital One just told a federal court on the record that Trump's own company set off its money laundering alarms, and over 300 of Trump's accounts were closed in 2021, but it took a lawsuit to drag it into daylight. We would have thought that a convicted felon, fraud, and adjuncted rapist would have time to money launder. Michigan votes tomorrow. Outside groups already voted with their wallets. $68 million worth, including almost $30 million in AIPAC money from AIPAC-aligned PACs backing a single candidate. Is voting just a quaint, pointless custom now? LA County just hit a new 5-year low for rent, and it turns out the fix was never complicated. It was to build more homes and watch rent go down. Supply and demand. It's a wild concept. And over 4,000 WestJet flight attendants grounded over 300 flights over a simple question. If the plane doesn't run without that secondary work they were asked to do, why isn't it paid? And Exxon, Chevron, and Shell just posted a combined $36 billion in quarterly profit. BP reports tomorrow, so place your bets. That's the week. Now you're caught up because you have a job to get back to. So you're welcome. Go ahead and clip that, chat. Go ahead and clip it, Twitch. Twitch, clip it. That's a good one. Twitch clip it. Twitch clip it. Clip it, Twitch. I don't even know what to say. There's an automatic thing that works pretty good and it gets the clip out like really fast. There it goes. It worked. It happened. It did the thing. Oh, clip that is what I'm supposed to say. Now it's gonna clip that too, but that's fine. It's a really cool feature. Thanks, Twitch. That is the 1 minute news roundup. We got through all 5 of the stories. All of the sources are in the Discord if you want to check them out. We're going to go ahead and move on. Short stream today. We're going to keep schedule tight. It's like 1 hour stream, probably something like that. I want to watch this video of AOC on the Majority Report, I think is what I want to watch. What do you think, chat? Do you have any recommendations? She was just on 4 days ago. It's in an hour. We'll see how much of it we can get through. So I don't know how much I'll be able to get.
Of critical data is locked inside documents like finance.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
If I get the feeling you've been cheated.
It is Thursday, July 30th, 2026. My name is Emma Vigeland, in for Sam Seder, and this is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live, steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, U.S. Congresswoman representing New York's 14th District, will join us.
Where is she? We're 5 minutes in, and I don't even see her.
People are pretty disgusted in this country. That's included in Palestine 3, Matt. Just before we play this clip here, showing that Americans now believe that Israel is committing genocide in Palestine.
Oh.
By a plus 19 margin.
Whoa, really?
43 to 24%.
Yeah, well, about time.
And that includes 22% of Trump voters.
Really?
So Benjamin Netanyahu is worried about that public perception. And here he is doing his media tour while he was in town for the funeral of one of the most vile people to ever sit in the United States Senate. Here
Lindsey Graham? Really?
Talking about the concept of genocide and recognizing
I didn't know he came over for that.
In the United States.
I guess that's why Mom Donnie was talking about arresting him.
Scholars, you have humanitarian groups, the United Nations, who have all said that Israel has committed war crimes. So,
all right.
Do that. If we had this genocidal intent, we obviously didn't. It's the exact opposite. The genocidal intent.
What?
Sorry, but Yoav Gallant, who also has an ICC warrant out for his arrest, said that we were fighting human animals the immediate day after. So
yeah, there's said some atrocious
compilations of genocidal intent. Not that we need to tell this audience that, but
no.
We had this genocidal intent. We obviously didn't. It's the exact opposite. The genocidal intent was Hamas. They wanted those civilians killed so they can go on TV or go to the corrupt international criminal court.
He talks like Trump.
Crimes. But that's not us. We value every civilian life. Every civilian life lost is a tragedy. And we'll do, so far, we've incurred a lot fewer civilians to combatants lost than just about in any urban warfare in modern times.
That's because they don't count Palestinians as
Being
humans.
misrepresented. Why not allow journalists in, independent of Israeli forces?
Yeah, we do, I think, sometimes, but the problem there
We
is
do
it's
sometimes.
still wrong.
Right.
And then we
we'll
kill
kill
them.
them. We'll say that they're Hamas. I mean, do we even need to hear any more of this?
No.
You know,
Thank you.
But the fact that he's been on this media tour, it's been notable. It's been Fox News on the
He's
weekend,
literally on a media
this
tour.
way for
Wow.
The past few months. Because there's a recognition about what is coming with the midterms, and that they may actually have some sort of curb on their the endless blank check that we give to Israel for their war crime.
I hope so.
Alexandria.
Oh, here we go. All right. Let's see. I used to be a big fan of AOC. I'm pretty critical of her now. So let's give this a shot.
Joined now by President. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was cute. That was cute.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I mean, honestly, I
Oops,
kind of
it
was
slipped.
50 on it and I just went with it. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to see you, and I know you're obviously not going to be talking about your ambitions for higher office, so I'm making a little bit of a joke. But have you been surprised to see,
Took the
how
pressure
excited
off.
people are when
She's
there's these
She's
polling
like,
numbers
shit.
that
Is she gonna try to get me to
say
commit to a
about
presidential
Trump?
run in the first 2 minutes of the interview?
I am surprised by it. I think sometimes people would talk about it, and I was always candidly like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, whatever.
People actually want her to run now.
Came out, and I'm like, what is happening? I was in Memphis, and Justin Pearson, we were campaigning for him, and there were some folks actually that had driven out from Arkansas, and they were talking about like the straw polls out there, and I'm like, I don't, but I think people are pissed off.
Yeah. People are pissed off.
People are
That's
pissed off.
that's
and
accurate.
I want to talk about what people are pissed about as well. Specifically the data centers. I mean, you mentioned Memphis and your trip down to the south. You went to Georgia as well. I was kind of going back and looking at stuff from 2018, 8 years ago when you just won your primary. And one of the through lines in your career has been environmental policy because
she's been on it with environmental stuff.
Deal that you supported early on to now your bill that is
The new Green Deal. I read the book on
about this data center moratorium. How do you envision the future of climate policy? And over the past 8 years, has anything changed in what you've seen that has altered your perspective at all?
Yeah, I think about that time too.
Since you're getting that political shmoney.
I think has also been reflective of the broader populist work that we've been doing. There are different ways that people enter a climate and environmental fight. Some of it is from a more scientific perspective. They're seeing the numbers and the data on climate change and trying to keep below, 8 years ago, trying to keep below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now we're in a much more grave condition than that. And so there are people that are brought to it from a global climate change, carbon-based perspective. And really what made a Green New Deal bill was three things. One, an aggressive decarbonization target, ideally within 10 years. Two, an economically populist platform.
Yeah, that's why I liked it.
Any Green New Deal style bill had to create thousands or millions of union track jobs. And the third was an environmental justice and racial and economic component, which is acknowledgement that the communities that are going to be hardest hit are sacrifice zones. And so we need to approach legislation that prioritizes the protection of the communities that are going to be hardest
That's
hit.
huge. I didn't understand that was part of the Green New Deal.
When it's been hitting people's pocketbooks and their electricity bills in the way that it has, that it's changed the conversation. Now people understand that climate policy is very much economic policy as well.
I think so. As we started that effort, because I represent the Bronx, I represent a district that the year I got elected before redistricting, the majority of my district was in Queens, and the minority was in the Bronx. I'm from the Bronx. Now the majority of my district's from the Bronx, and the minority of it is in Queens.
Well, that's
And
convenient.
one of the things that I did early on is that in the Bronx, it's a less ideological place in terms of our electorate. It's obviously very deep blue, but it is very working class and also racially diverse, and like all of these things stacked on one another. And so one of the things that we had to do was really deep canvas the community to talk about climate issues in a way that actually show up in our life. So I think to answer your question, it's less about connecting climate to these issues, and it's more about talking about the specific ways that this is an environmental issue in a way that's not tree hugging and academic and out of touch. So 8 years ago, it was me doing teach-ins in public housing saying the lead in our water, the sky-high asthma rates that we deal with, that is environmental. And this is directly
it is environmental terrorism.
With the gas infrastructure that we have in our public housing that is leaching into our air, and all of the other environmental issues that are
putting highways through impoverished communities.
I think that this is it's the similar analog. People are seeing how all of this is wrecking their health, wrecking their communities, and it makes environmental issues not academic, but very real in people's everyday lives.
Yeah,
that's strong.
There was a poll from Data for Progress that showed that 63% of voters support pausing construction of AI data centers. So your bill is very much a popularist bill, if you will. But I mean, what's also, I think you can connect it to is the Iran war and how gas prices have been impacted by that too. So there's a way to, I think, as we've talked about, framing Gaza around, as Abdul Al-Sayed has done very well, and you just recently endorsed him, framing Gaza, like, we shouldn't be spending this amount of money, we should be investing it in our communities. That's also how you can connect that foreign policy issue to environmental racism and environmental investment in this country.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's about talking about these issues in many different ways that are majoritarian. And there are ways that we can frame these debates that talk about why we come to these conclusions from a moral perspective. I think we always have to be making three arguments at the same time for any issue. A moral argument, an economic argument, and also a political argument. And when we're able to...
So, chat, this is laundering. This is image laundering. And I'm not like, I don't see AOC as the enemy. Like, she's about as left as American politics get. But they are laundering her image. There's been a lot of talk about AOC's failure to lead the moment, especially with Mamdani and his messaging being the sharper messaging that we see. I mean, AOC is AOC because she sort of used social media, and her messaging was really sharp and it reached people. And we haven't really heard anything from AOC in a while. And I guess this is sort of Sam Seder and the Majority Report. This is them sort of laundering her image and framing her as a leader in the movement and sort of giving her that platform to demonstrate how she's been hands-on. I just want to point that out. I'm not going to say that, like, I'm not going to watch it, but that's what they're doing.
Argue for something in a chorus of all of those three, then we're able to build a majoritarian coalition.
Majoritarian?
Building a majoritarian coalition is important, and I know that you, I'm sure, share...
Is majoritarian a word?
...with efforts that felt like they were narrowing the Democratic coalition, the focus on affluent suburbanites over a more working class coalition. But something that I don't think gets talked enough about is where Democrats lost credibility was on the issue of democracy. And when you say majoritarian,
it's a real word.
That's a way to demonstrate
majoritarian's a real word.
Responsiveness, but on the genocide in Gaza,
I've never heard that one before.
To their voters, although it's a lot of progress in the House with the 103 Democrats that voted to block that $3 billion shipment. But Gaza, Biden
Democrats
won
are
again
just
when a lot of people wanted a more open
the
primary
other corporate
process.
party.
Like, these are choices by the Democrats that box out the voters and make them feel unheard.
Yeah,
And
so
when
why not help launch a new
Kamala
party?
Harris was going around and talking about democracy with a banner behind her, they didn't have the credibility that they needed to fight this fascist threat. And I'm curious
That's
what you
why
think
we
about
shouldn't
that
support
and
Democrats.
how
It's
the
not just
party can
credibility,
be
they don't have even
responsive and demonstrate through
mechanisms to
action
respond.
democracy.
There's no economic
Yeah,
power.
I mean, I think about all, you brought up a lot of different points. One is, on this Biden issue, it was interesting watching it happen in real time,
Mhm.
What I find very interesting about that moment and the people who talk about that time is that I think that some, not all, but some of the Democrats that are most aggressive about getting their narrative out about how they wanted to push Biden out were also the same Democrats that were most aggressive about closing the wagons on a primary process when we had a chance to have that in a presidential election.
Right.
And so I feel like a lot of them are compensating because, and you hear sometimes there's
Okay, so they did one thing and they said another.
class and like some of these folks that want, who backed Biden when it was time to step down as like some sort of litmus test.
Gotcha. Okay.
But
I
those
guess.
folks were part of the establishment that
Yeah.
were closing the ranks around Biden when before a primary process would have even started.
So you're saying these people just wanted to be the decider, to use a Bushism?
Well, I think it's not just to be a decider, but they saw at the end how unpopular their actions, the conclusion that their actions had led to and how unpopular it was. So then it became a race to distance themselves from it.
Gotcha.
So if you
Okay.
run the tape back, right, like there was a moment when the press was asking, do you think Biden should have a primary challenger? And there were some Democrats, many, if not most, at the time. that
Should
were
we
saying
do democracy?
no,
I don't know. You're the Democratic Party.
etc. And there were some that were open. Like I was pretty. I mean, I will
Jeez.
never.
That was a
because of the
question?
way I got here.
You
I can't.
defeated an incumbent.
Yeah, I defeated an incumbent, so I just feel on principle I'm never going to say we shouldn't have a primary. But a lot of the Democrats
That's
who
fair.
said, no, we're
I'll
sticking
go-
with him.
I'll give her a lot of credit for that answer.
Were the same that I think oftentimes are very loud about that litmus test after the fact. So, but I do agree with you. I think that
So they
voters
distanced
and the
themselves after they
electorate
sort of helped
was-
make sure there wasn't a
you know,
primary
there was
challenger.
this tension, especially at that time, between what the establishment thought could defeat Donald Trump and the mood that the electorate was actually in. And
Yeah, it was
I think
delusion.
when we fast forward to today, the reckoning that we're seeing in some of these primaries,
That's a great word for it.
is that what is different between Trump 1 and Trump 2 is that I think your median Democratic voter desperately wants to do everything to get Trump out of power and get Republicans out of power. And in Trump
And we're
1,
just
they
gonna
have
elect
the
more
establishment
Democrats.
To do that. Yeah. And in Trump 2, they do not. And we are seeing how that is playing out in real time.
Oh, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. What we saw, chat, essentially in this election of Trump was the establishment thinking they had it under control and then absolutely just screwing the pooch, dropping the ball and not meeting the moment. So I do like that AOC is aware. I mean, obviously she's an elected politician. She should have awareness at this moment. But she's aware in a way that I think other Democrats aren't, in that this moment is a reckoning. I mean, she's essentially a DSA candidate herself, but the DSA candidates, for lack of a better term, the progressives and the more radical, everyone Hassan decides to fly across the country and go canvass for, they're getting elected because they're willing to be honest about how the establishment responded to Trump, and they're willing to be honest that it didn't work and that plan needs to be abandoned. And the establishment will never, ever admit that. They just want to keep the status quo. They just want to keep things the way they are. And they want to pretend like they could just pull another Biden and they'd win this time. And it's like, it didn't work the first time. But they're never going to stop marching forward in the way that they were taught to march. That's the establishment.
Batting over 50% at this point, and he doesn't seem to give a crap what anyone has to say about it. He's lost patience with some of that. But yeah, I mean, I think then putting aside Biden for a second, just something like the data center moratorium is, as you say, a majoritarian bill. It's responsive to the mood, and
it's growing on me.
On the inside, if you can shed light on why so many of your colleagues are resistant to that. There's almost like a kind of distaste for the messiness of populism that should be anathema to the Democratic Party right now.
Should be.
Because we're fighting a real threat.
But she's being honest, and the rest of them aren't.
The answer's obvious. It's
but
money.
Yes.
Money.
I was lobbing that up for you.
Yeah. In the past couple cycles, when you rightfully, there's a ton of concentration on APAC spending. And also, if you look at the top 3 spenders, it's APAC, AI, crypto.
Right.
AI being the largest singular.
That's crazy.
Of campaign financing, not just to people like Donald Trump.
Our politics are ran by APAC, crypto.
House and Senate political campaigns. These folks know, and we look, you go back to 2012, you go back to any.
I wonder on the inside if you can shed light on why so many of your colleagues are resistant to that. There's almost like a kind of
we're gonna watch that back. Running it back.
Of populism that should be anathema to the Democratic Party right now.
Should be.
In my view, because we're fighting a real threat.
We're literally fighting money.
I mean,
it's campaign financing.
Yes. I was lobbing that up for you.
She's being honest. I'll give her credit.
Couple cycles when you rightfully, there's a ton of concentration on APAC spending. And
we just covered that.
Look at the top 3 spenders.
Top 3.
APAC, AI, crypto.
Right.
AI
being the largest singular source of campaign financing, not just for people like Donald Trump. In many
AI is changing the planet so fast.
House and Senate political campaigns. These folks know, and we look, you go back to 2012, you go back to any other kind of cycle. Like when we throw back to the Great Recession, and during that time, it was Wall Street, it was financial firms. Now it's AI that are kind of the top contributors to our.
It was like real estate brokerage firms.
Know that the game is that you need to bankroll both political parties in order to get your agenda passed. And so the good news is
2 sides of the same coin.
In the moratorium, I do think that the revolt that is happening in these communities is very palpable and powerful, and it is working because the folks that are signing on to the AI moratorium are not just your expected lefty members of Congress. We are seeing Democrats that are more moderate sign on to the moratorium because
regular Democrats.
The outrage among the electorate is also cutting across.
What's up, Marco Yolo? How's it going?
As well. And so I think that there's,
welcome to chat. How's your day?
That there's a lot of resistance and people not signing on to it. There is also increasingly across ideological support for it too.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to ask
AI is going to be the line in the sand because of the money that's attached to it.
It's safe to say you've become a bit of a
stressful day, time to relax. Right on.
And that gives you this war chest that can help vulnerable Democrats when they need it.
Let's talk about
valuable for you
the good Democrats, like AOC.
Because you've spoken about how you were treated when you got into Congress in 2018. A lot has changed since then.
Yeah.
And,
why?
On our show,
give us some inside information, AOC.
Building an inside game to pair
why have you dulled your sharp edge?
Been very conscious in trying to do that. How conscious has that strategy been for you, building power internally?
I think it's very conscious. My motivation is winning.
Same. I love to win.
I'm pretty, forthright about that. And
She likes the competition of the politics.
you need a lot of different players on the field, right? When I first got there, you also work with the tools that you have. So when I first got there, I had support from my district. I had
And then she didn't show up to that Amazon rally.
and be able to communicate. We were building kind of digital tools in a time when that was not common in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, she was at the.
And-
What
but
happened?
also
She was like
didn't have much else.
the social media star.
Right.
Internal support.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
It was like you were treated with hostility.
Yeah,
Yeah.
open hostility. And that hostility shows up in
Because they're
ways that
Democrats.
You're not even aware of when you get there. There's open hostility, and then there's also secret hostility.
Subterfuge.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, we didn't
Inside
did not have
baseball.
the fundraising ability at the same. I mean, it was robust. but
That's
it
the
wasn't
problem with
the
politics.
same as it is now, and we were able to do really powerful things and really punch above our weight with what we had, and we were able to then take that and build on that. And in New York,
Did she
part of
choke
my
while she was
whole
saying that?
focus was not just national but local. We had to change the city's politics because one thing that I don't like to be is alone.
Right.
And I was very aware that I was surrounded by people who wanted to politically kill me. Andrew Cuomo was governor.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably
Attorney
literally,
General
too.
was, elected mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Oh, yeah,
our
Eric
immediate
Adams.
focus too was also how do we support down ballot candidates and cultivate the next generation of people that were going to help govern this country over the next 10, 15 years. And so that's when we start getting, that year Julia Salazar got elected in 2018 after
Okay.
my election, because at that time the primaries were separated.
Yep. That was Cynthia Nixon's year too.
Cynthia Nixon's
Yep.
year. You get Jabari Brisport. You get
Incrementalism,
start putting
though.
these pieces on the board. A term later, Zohran Mamdani, Assembly.
And then we get Trump.
Astoria. We've got, so on and so forth. We built the DSA SIO program on the Assembly and Senate level. You have it on the City Council level, and
New York is
that
cooking.
also-
I'll give her that.
That then creates
The local politics in
the
New York, I'm really
political
jealous of.
foundation and strength. So you're not just one person totally surrounded, but you take that and you invest it in a political coalition that can help each other.
Yes.
And that's not just local, but it's national as well. And you start to
This
look
is
at
image
that,
laundering, chat.
and then you also make a case as to why this is not just good for your worldview, but also why this is good for the party. And
Who cares if it's good for the Democratic Party,
Look,
though?
this is the easiest.
Like, that's my argument, is she shows up on day one, like, outright opposed. She just literally said there was, like, people that politically wanted her dead or whatever. And yet she's still trying to work with this party, like this Democratic Party that doesn't even want her, that doesn't have the same values as her. Why are we still working in this party? Why aren't we getting ranked choice voting and a third party set up so that we can actually have the will of the people heard?
management.
that I would try to make that argument and it would fall on deaf ears.
Yeah.
But you don't have to just rely on whether people listen to you or not. You just do it.
Well, and you also you have money, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that talks.
Yeah.
And
Money's how you get your
that
message out.
It's like it's a way to combat the deluge of corporate money by having a carrot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, that I would imagine has made your work life a little bit easier. Has it made it easier for you to get certain agenda items through? I mean, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I think we really encountered when I first got there was that it still exists, but there was a really concrete conception in the party that only one kind of candidate can win a swing seat.
Right.
And it's
Interesting.
It was very conservative, and it was very cookie cutter, and it didn't matter if your swing seat was in Ohio or Nebraska or Pennsylvania. You had to take certain positions. You had to be a certain kind of candidate.
That's the problem
in
with the
order to be
Democratic
considered
Party.
viable. And so
Right here, point blank.
the kind of
Laying it out.
drum that I started with was, because at that time we had the largest class since Watergate. So I started to look at all of our frontline candidates, and I say, you know, are there any here that kind of break the mold in any way? And at that time we had 1, 2, or 3 that were, you know, fit whatever mold was fit, but you'd have one that was on Medicare for All.
Right.
Or you'd have one that was willing to sign on to Green New Deal resolution. And so what I started to do was max out to those frontliners that were willing in one way or another to take a risk and buck convention. It wasn't just 1 or 2.
The Democrats willing to go against the
in general,
Democratic
as
Party.
issues came up. Because I think the thing that's most important for us as a left movement to show is, you know, there's a lot of sticks.
Yeah.
But we need to have really big carrots and say, if you do this and if you take this leap, we will come through for you.
If you take
But
a
that's
risk,
but
I'm
that's the
going to
thing. She
support
says there's a lot of sticks, but there is no penalty for going against the Democratic Party. If you're one of these challengers that is going for a swing seat and you don't fit that mold and you have a policy point that you're going to go for despite fitting the mold entirely, there is no mechanism to like use the stick. They're never going to like keep you out of your committee appointments or the type of insidious tactics that we see from the Republicans. The Democrats don't have the juice from labor backing, and they don't use the juice when it comes to imposing pain when people don't fall in line with their political party. So even though they're not even like they're not the good guys by a long margin, even when they're trying to enforce what would be considered like, you know, their silver lining, like their redeeming qualities, they don't use their power to make sure that people stay committed to those things that we're talking about as like majoritarian or popular. They don't like spank you. There's never a moment where the Democratic Party is going to impose its will on you. But they do that through primaries and trying to choose who gets elected. But then once you're in office, or if you're running against an incumbent, they have no power against it. And that is a big problem when we see something like a fascist movement. There's nothing to counterbalance it on the other side.
You and even if there's some spending against you for this, you'll be able to tap into that as a resource. Like, I mean, these are things that people don't see on the outside that I think are, you know, I'm a political nerd. I love this kind of stuff, but it's important, and it's part of why you're in the position you are now. And it's also been really, it's been reported that you and Mayor Mamdani have worked quite closely together. And that was really...
I mean, she's also basically saying her coalition is conservative people that also they're okay with Medicare for all. So like the coalition at its definition does not have aligned values. And it's a terrible way to run a party.
Really clear in the New York endorsements, because the mayor endorsed 3 House candidates, 2 of whom successfully toppled incumbents, 2 of whom were DSA. You did not. But what doesn't get talked about is that it also worked the other way with assembly challengers. So you endorsed 3 assembly challengers against incumbents. All of them won. And it's the same situation for Mamdani and for you. You have to work with members of the House. Mamdani has to work with members of the Assembly to get his agenda across. And politics is dirty. And so there's a great chance that you're going to be retaliated against, either you or Mamdani, if you miss and the incumbent makes it, right? Like that is...
Yeah.
I would
Hey, Crazy Dad. How are you? How's your day?
How you guys have been coordinating.
Yeah, I also think I also think there's a larger conversation about the natural limitations that come with any one elected position.
Right.
And it is really hard to put 100% of every expectation in every situation on one person.
I woke up from a surprise nap and did stream. The beginning of the stream is me apologizing for just waking up. Literally just waking up.
Within the functions of their role. And so
Twins!
This coordination, it's not just explicit, it's also us functioning within the roles. And if anything, it also demonstrates the advantage of us organizing to support people at multiple levels of governance.
I mean, yeah. I just wish there was a third party that wasn't the Democratic Party.
He has to coordinate his
So that there was more, it was a concentration of power and principles.
Money for the city comes from the state, and his number one focus is being as effective as possible as mayor of New York City. And the same applies to me as a member of the House. And so some of this is also about demonstrating
Somebody close that window
of what a growing coalition looks like at multiple levels of governance. There are those natural limitations. And also they create natural complementary strategies and positions.
What's up, Duncan Crossberry? How are you?
And,
Welcome to chat.
I guess I'll turn back to the House here because I'm curious about the if Democrats take back the House, what is your sense of
It'll be surprising if
what
they
the most
don't.
fertile ground is going to
I'm doing
be
pretty well. Just
for
checking out AOC on the majority report.
oversight of the Trump administration
They
on
seem to be
communications,
trying to build her
because
up
there's
with
just
like
so much to grab
a
at here in
leadership
terms of corruption and
campaign. It's like a
illegality.
pitch of her
But,
demonstrated
I'm
leadership.
curious if you think in terms of like the House business,
basically like
where people think
the foundations
the
of what's
Trump
going to
administration
possibly
has
turn
its
into her
most
political
vulnerabilities
campaign
in
for
terms of
presidency.
oversight.
It's a little hard because
This
their
is
law
manufactured
so
credibility.
prolific. So where my instinct says to go is two things: their source of money and their source of political power. So if I were just to go just off the top of my head in terms of political power, you want to go after Epstein.
Yeah.
You want to go after not just corruption generally, but corruption in the ways that undermine their base. I think that after the general election, there was so much, especially in the Democratic establishment, so much hay made about like bro podcasts, and that's where
Hay
they
made?
ran up the numbers.
Yeah.
And I think that the media has
I'm
as much of a
sorry.
misogynistic blind spot as
We're a
anywhere else.
mess
I mean,
right
we are
now.
the misogynistic blind spot in many ways.
You've never experienced that.
And so, but
Yeah,
the cost of that is that I actually think a lot of it was Maha. I think that there was very
The
little
Make America
political
Healthy Again?
analysis done on how they really focused on women, on moms.
Have we
on
always been a mess?
radicalizing?
We've had
and
periods
doing
of
a lot of persuasion
doing
in the
okay,
electorate,
but we're founded on a mess, that's for
was
sure.
much more swingy than you know, to be frank, white male voters. Those have generally broken more strongly towards Republicans, but
Yeah,
they
like the Joe
really
Rogan type.
focused a lot on women, and they have
Make
had
America
probably
Hate
the
Again?
biggest
Is that how she's
struggles
using it? I thought it was that.
with the glyphosate,
The Make America Healthy Again campaign
ruling,
coming from
with
RFK
their
Jr.
complete throwing in with Big Ag and Monsanto and Bayer, including coordinating with the Supreme Court and all of that.
Oh, you're making
I
fun.
think their political vulnerabilities are in
We had this
we wanna
really
focus on
goofy
corruption
movement
in the
called
ways that
Maha, Make
undermine
America
their
Healthy Again.
promises, and we want to go after investigations that cut off the supply of their illicit money flows. So
What do you make of the Maha movement then?
Interesting.
Because,
They're
our
going after the
Alex
money
Solis mine has
from the
been on
Maha
show
movement.
That these charlatans
Which
are
would
able
be
to
like
fill a vacuum
blogs,
because there's
podcasts.
So much anxiety that people have with the healthcare system.
I agree completely.
Yeah, if you want to expand on that, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
I
exploiting
actually-
something that people have a
I actually meet
genuine
with Maha activists.
grudge against.
I work with MAGA
Make
advocates
America hot
as
again.
a lot
We're
of
definitely
them
getting hotter. The median
really
temperature is
don't
nuts right
believe
now.
that their fight is partisan, and it's not in many ways. We do have extraordinary corruption in our agricultural system, in our big corporate
We do.
system
We have
as
a really
well,
weird
you know, and
subsidy.
this
Like
isn't
the
free of
agricultural
political
industry in
parties,
America is a
and our entire
mess.
political system has been compromised. Like one of the first things I did was
One of the best demonstrations of how far gone our agricultural industry is that most farmers understand SNAP as a subsidy for farmers. Like the farmers know not to oppose SNAP and food stamps because that's a big part of what helps sustain our agriculture. That's how intertwined the money and the supply chain is, and yet we won't do a planned
and
economy.
you have companies like 3M and others that, you know, and this goes back decades where you have a big company that is doing manufacturing of some kind and they just dump whatever cancerous
MAGA
product that they
is
have and poison
anathema,
communities around
but
them, and then they just pay off our political class to ignore
what I've come to make content on, like what is sort of the crux of where I've been for like the last couple of months, is that the MAGA movement is founded on legitimate complaints that giant corporations have spent a lot of money misconstruing the reason and the source of those legitimate complaints. That's my hot take.
it and to let it continue to happen, or to shield them legally, like with glyphosate, from everyday people trying to get that back. And you're right, also, it's because there's a ton of anxiety around our healthcare system.
The healthcare system,
I don't know.
affordability,
I grew up in a household
wages.
that was very much shaped by these dynamics.
These are things that MAGA was really, or MAGA was really concerned about. No tips on, no taxes on tips. That's the kind of thing.
Family is evangelical.
That's how they got their ear.
And I see how all of these issues.
Yeah, free healthcare. Now nobody has healthcare.
Expressed as right wing are actually very much just the
liberal, happy, fun, la la. Yeah, exactly.
Not being able to afford healthcare.
Yeah,
So
it's like a
also
pretty,
like, how do I stop being sick?
like we forgot what that was like, not being able to afford healthcare, and now we're about to see it
that
again.
I think are toxic.
Yep.
And then, which there are things that are actually toxic and things that aren't actually toxic, that get taken advantage of. And then also, when I
Yeah,
do
this
get
whole
sick
organic
and I can't
movement
afford medicine,
that really misconstrued what
the
healthy actually means.
holistic and low-cost alternatives that I can turn to because I know that I can't afford to see a doctor. And
That's real.
that is a place of tremendous vulnerability that people feel that is immensely legitimate. And then if you add the racial component too, you know, I'm Puerto Rican. The United States sterilized women for decades. And so you have COVID, you have vaccines, and obviously in the Black community,
There's mistrust.
same thing. And so that is a perfect storm of a lack of trust in institutions that is oftentimes
I have no
very
impact on, but
valid
the
and very
2020.
legitimate, and you
Yeah, the whole world's going to be watching us.
oh, don't worry. Or
We're all
condescend
still
to
waiting to
it.
see if Trump's going
We
to try
do
to
need to fix our healthcare
illegally
system.
run for another term.
Absolutely.
Or just
Lastly,
keep
I know you
power
have to
and
go.
not step
I wanted
down.
to make sure that we touched on this because you've been subjected to some pretty interminable misogyny and racism too throughout
You've
your
been
career.
targeted.
Including these vile deepfake images.
Oh,
on
the
the
AI
internet.
deepfakes.
You and Nancy Mace actually have been working together on this Defiance Act. It's a bill that allows victims who have been, the victims of deepfake, sexually explicit deepfakes, to get recourse. It passed unanimously in the Senate. It has a bunch of bipartisan co-sponsors, and yet Republicans apparently don't want to pass it because it will give you specifically a win. What's
That
going
is
on there?
that is such the problem with American politics.
this is not
We need
the
to
first time.
we need to
that
get
we've
these
been
people
encountered
out of
that roadblock.
office. We need term
Both
limits.
Republican and Democratic majorities.
These spiteful.
There is a fear about, there is a lot invested in trying to convey an ascendant and popular movement as ineffective.
Mm-hmm.
And so
There
there
is.
is a lot of incentive by our political establishment to do everything they can
Yeah.
to maintain that narrative, because it's one of the few things.
Don't get me started on Rahm
And
Emanuel.
I think that in a Republican majority where they are very vulnerable, the last thing they want. I've heard straight up, I've had bills that are, we hear about the flashy stuff. I have bills that are so common sense,
Just mundane stuff.
that pass committee unanimously, that everyone, Republicans agree on, Democrats agree on, swing seat folks agree on, and having people on my team be told this can't move because it has her name on it. And
Wow.
that has happened in the past.
American politics in a
under
nutshell,
both
ladies and
party
gentlemen.
leaderships,
And people that don't
that's
limit yourself to
okay
those
because we find other
salutations.
ways to be effective. But I do think that when it comes to this issue,
Folks.
I would really implore Speaker Johnson and Republicans, again, this has bipartisan bills. We should not
Man.
allow pedophiles and sexual abusers to run amok because you just don't like a girl.
Yeah.
Hot take.
Hot take.
And I think that there's a lot of political realignment happening in the country, and whether,
Clip
people
that.
like it or not, there actually is a lot of hope that can be generated among voters of all kinds to actually show us get something meaningful done by people who are most disparate and unlike one another in the House on something that's real. The Defiance Act, we're now at a point where something like 1 in 8 middle schoolers' kids know someone or have experienced deep fake attacks.
Oh, that's
Right.
terrible.
And to
This
allow
whole
this
generation's
information
growing up with that.
to score a political point is some of the most egregious and horrible activities that we can do. And I actually do think that on this issue, they are capable of being better.
Yeah,
And
Mike Johnson's supposed to hate porn. I thought he had some app that he and his son notify each other.
let's just move it. And I won't.
What?
Yeah.
They have some app where him and his son notify each other if they're thinking about watching porn?
I've worked with
Is that the
Representative
context?
Laurel Lee on this, and we're ready to rock. Let's help people.
Right.
Let's help people.
Right. Well, that's a tall task for Mike Johnson and this Republican leadership. They also do love protecting pedophiles as well. That's like a core brand proposition for them.
Yeah,
So,
it's on
anyway,
brand.
Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Quick break. We'll be right back.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, I don't know. That didn't do much to improve my opinions on AOC. I still think she's now part of the machine. She's now a blue chess piece on the board. So I don't know. She's one of the better Democrats. You gotta be able to see your allies as they are. But she is now part of the liberal elite. Like she is part, like she campaigned against that, but she's part of that machine now. But she's being real honest. Excuse me. She's being real honest about like the moves that go on inside and what it's like to run against an incumbent. And just that's a little how so. I mean, she's talking about how she's, she has to make all these alliances inside the Democratic Party with people who hold conservative opinions that just so happen to also support something like Medicare for All. And that to me tells me that when we see something like this fascist insurgency that we're seeing from the Republican Party, coming from within the Republican Party. They don't have the tools to combat that because their allies are very much of the same opinions. And they just happen to also want to go for Medicare for all. So I just really hope that we get something like ranked choice voting in America so that we can start to support people in parties other than the Democratic Party and support parties other than the Democratic Party that's just sort of cobbled together amongst people who have somewhat progressive opinions or might support a piece of progressive policy, but ultimately are conservative moderates that don't support majority popular politics. They're just corporate branded entities that have one or two good opinions. That's what the Democratic Party is cobbled together with, is these purple Democrats that, you know, they're not that much different from Republicans. And I just don't understand why we continue to try to get anything organized without first committing to getting a third party going. It's crazy we don't have a third party in the United States. We're the only like major democracy in the world that has this weird two-party system. So I like the thought of AOC, and I was certainly an AOC proponent initially when she first got elected, but now she's just part of the machine. Ally, she's on our side of the camp. She's calling out money in politics. She's calling out where the power is. She's pointing out how the establishment defends the establishment and the status quo and won't run anybody that doesn't fit that conservative cookie cutter, as she called it, her words, not mine. Anyone that doesn't fit that cookie cutter, like, blueprint of what a swing state candidate is supposed to, or swing seat candidate is supposed to look like, they just don't support people that have not establishment politics. That's essentially what she's saying. And how we ever get anything done is crazy. I mean, she's openly saying that the Republicans won't pass a lukewarm piece of legislation just because it has her name attached to it. Why are there not massive coalitions within the Democratic Party to push back against those mechanisms? That's what I don't understand. And if they don't exist, why don't we have another party that is an opposition party to push back against it? Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. How are we 200 years in a run in this country, 250 years, and we don't actually have an opposition party? Knowing these mechanisms are in place, knowing our left politicians are very public and transparent about these things existing. The Republican Party protects pedophiles. The Democratic Party won't even protect the candidates that get pushback for being women. Why are we still voting for a Democratic Party? I don't get it. Sorry. That was a bit of a tangent. Just a little bit of a tangent. Okay, hold on. We got to cover this. Chat, this is breaking news. This can't be real. They're saying Jeanine Pirro got fired. I don't know how true this is. Because she dropped something on the reflecting pool vandalism case. The case was supposed to be like, she's the district attorney for DC, and she dropped the case because I guess she didn't see enough evidence or whatever. Chat, this is just coming out breaking right now. Let me see. Somebody just sent this to me. They're saying she may have been removed from her office or something. I can't read it because I don't have a subscription to NBC. No, thank you. But They're saying she was seen. Okay, here's TMZ. Thanks, TMZ, for not having a paywall. She is seen leaving the West Wing, wheeling a briefcase in a white box behind her. So Trump is saying that she choked. She's walking into the White House with a white box and a briefcase. All because she won't try to prosecute people. Okay, and it's just speculation, but yeah, figured I'd bring that up. Chat. Where are we at? It's 5. Do we want to watch one more thing? Let me see. What else do I have on my list? So watch the majority report. I'm saving that Democratic debate. I didn't watch this. Maybe we could just watch the highlights from that. I haven't seen anything from it. Stevens El Sayed highlights. Here we go. And now I just want people to remember, these are both members of the Democratic Party. This is the Democratic Party going against itself.
To fill the seat of outgoing Democratic Senator Gary Peters. And last night, candidates competing for the Democratic nomination met face-to-face in their final debate. They traded attacks on issues including campaign motives and outside funding.
There you go.
When you're bought off by DTE and Blue Cross and Big Pharma and Big Tech and APAC, don't be surprised that there's a pro.
I think it generally would not be a good idea to expand the fiscal deficit of any country at this point. I mean, yeah, if you're looking at it in terms of current economic situations, yeah, I hear you. But the fact is that scarcity is artificially inflated, and a lot of scarcity is just artificially created. And if we were to, like, for example, one of the best things that you could demonstrate, like, how economics at this point is just sort of, it's an entrenched set of resource dispersion that we do not have to maintain. And let me explain what I mean by that. If we were to build in the United States, in the middle of the desert, what we have called the middle of the Mojave, and so the Mojave Desert is not farmable land. Nobody can live there. There's not enough water. Generally, just an unpleasant place to be. If we were to put like a 1 by 1 square mile grid of solar panels, we could distribute power to like the entire country for free. And if we just did that for food, power, set up things with the new technology that we have today, like we could completely just change what costs what. Like if power's free, now food is cheaper. If everything's electric cars and power is free, now it's cheaper to travel. Commerce is going to see an increased participation. Like there are things we could do that the people in charge would never do because it's going to disrupt everything. It's going to disrupt their lifestyle. It's going to disrupt power. It's going to possibly make them not as rich. Maybe people will become richer than them. They don't want any of that to happen. It sounds like a really simplistic way of looking at things. It really is pretty much that simple. Like rich people don't want to disrupt the system in which they're currently benefiting. That's just the truth. Farmers, at least here in the United States, will destroy an entire field's worth of crops if the price of those crops would deviate. This is true. It's known. It's documented. There are entire fields of crops destroyed every year because by selling too many, the price goes down, and the cost when it comes to like what it costs to use a truck and fuel costs and the logistics of distributing that food around the country. If the cost of what it costs or the profit goes down too far, if they're to sell too many of their watermelons into the market, they will just destroy those watermelons. And that's a terrible way to run an economy, but that's how we do it. And we subsidize tons of farmers. The US government subsidizes an astrological amount of agriculture. Fair enough, but the fiscal deficit is still a problem even in that scenario. I mean, true, but what is causing it? And a lot of it is tied into our reliance on oil. And we don't have to be reliant on oil. We now have the technology to do a lot of things with solar power and electrical. And so things are entrenched because the people who are in power also have great influence on our politics. The oil lobbyists, the automotive industry, they don't want things to change. That's going to change their industry. Policy is the way that you protect your industry from changing. Debt is not free as it requires interest payments yearly, and there's almost this bipartisan understanding that borrowing should be sustained. Yeah, I mean, again, we're tied into this. We're no longer, we're no longer a gold standard. Everything is calculated in oil dollars. Everything. The petrodollar is the way that we calculate, worldwide currency exchange. So we could change that. Like, we logically, factually could change things in the way that things are ran by changing our reliance on money and politics. Things are locked in this mode. Like, everything runs the way that it runs. Financing is run the way that it's run. Banking is ran worldwide the way that it's run because we choose to allow our politics to be ran by money. If we restructured the way politics runs in America, if we didn't make it so dependent on campaign financing and financing becoming advertising and those two mechanisms being interchangeable within American politics, we could then start to not listen to these oil companies, not listen to the healthcare companies, not listen to the real estate companies, and start to create policy that's not dependent on funding and financing, corporate fundraising, and these corporate contributions, and instead listen to what actually helps make the world a better place. And a lot of it is changing these current dynamics that we have with how entrenched we are with politics and money and advertising. And that's honestly, it's kind of a cart before the horse scenario. And a lot of it, in my opinion, hinges on getting something like ranked choice voting in place so that we can vote for third-party candidates, so that we can vote for independent candidates that aren't beholden to this two-party duocracy that we have. We're stuck. We're stuck like Chuck. Most of the borrowing is used for social care and defense, so it's going to be a tough job. I mean, defense is sort of the first place that I think we can start to like, we don't need to have bases around the planet. The United States does not need to be the security force of the world. And people are starting to get more and more hostile to that ideology. And so I think we will start to see a breaking point. Like, we can't keep putting this amount of money into a military that's unwelcome. It's just not sustainable. So I don't know, but also United States military is the number one polluter in the world. We are the ones using the most oil. That oil money is tied into our military defense. These things, they're layered and very, very entrenched. The oil industry is not going to want to go anywhere. Those people are very, very, they're the richest people in the world. AI is starting to unsettle that. But the people that had the money, that are nefarious, that have maintained their money through political influence, are the people investing into AI. There's not a lot of difference there. It's just seen as the new place to invest. It's the new Wild West, if you will, of the elite, of the super mega rich. But let's go back to checking out the highlights from the debate.
That money doesn't just fall off trees. $60 million from outside organizations in this
APAC.
A lot of you remember Abdul from when he first ran for governor in 2018.
I don't like her. I don't even like the way she talks.
He wrote the books.
Started the podcast.
And he's already bought the website for president. You know, it's just another rung on the ladder.
CBS News political director
He would be a good president.
Who's been enjoying watching that debate and all the excitement in Michigan. Fane, good morning. What were the big takeaways from last night's debate?
I don't have a skip button here. Oh.
I think what times bitter fight that were Stevens side organizations. He especially criticized the groups affiliated.
Can we hear them? I don't want to hear you talk.
Democrat to take on the presumptive Republican nominee.
All right, let me just get highlights. Stevens, El Said, highlights. I just want highlights. I don't want the CBS coverage. Fox, I don't trust you. Oh, let's watch Hassan's recap. Fine. Thanks, Hassan.
It records and
Hassan's the GOAT, man.
based on your conversations.
Of course Hassan covered it.
At the doctor.
There needs to be reform, but there are people working. Oh my God! Actually serve you better.
It's so good. God, he's so good.
All right, I want to hear it. Okay. You got me with the hook. Now play the video.
Let's go, Abdul.
Here's Roop Raj.
And good evening and welcome to Studio C for the Democratic Senate debate. It's a chance for the two candidates to make their final pitch as to why they are the ones who can go up against Republican Mike Rogers. Now, this is a race the whole country is watching.
He's so excited.
Debate. Get ready.
Dr. Al-Sayed, you get the first opening statement tonight.
Roop, studio audience, folks watching at home, I am so grateful to be here. My name is Abdul Al-Sayed. I'm a doctor. I became a doctor because I go 15 minutes from where I grew up and travel a difference of 10 years difference in life expectancy. Instead of practicing clinically, I went into public health, rebuilt Detroit's health department, led Wayne County's Department of Health, Human and Veteran Services. We did things like put glasses on kids, took on corporate polluters, made sure that our kids weren't breathing the worst coming out of smokestacks, and eliminated medical debt. But I'm running because it just shouldn't be this hard. I've been down to 110 different cities, 475 public
Haley,
events.
stop interrupting.
I could go to a living room in Lansing. I could be
Haley,
in a church
stop
in Detroit.
interrupting
No
Abdul.
matter where I go, people tell me I need to be able to afford my groceries.
Whoa.
I need to be able to afford my gas. I need to be able to see a doctor when I get sick.
The sound effect was funny.
About me and her. It's not about that. It's about you. It's about what you deserve. It's about you deserving a politics that's not bought off by the same corporations picking your pocket.
That's entertaining as shit.
Single turn. I'm looking forward to the conversation about how we get money out of politics, put money in your pocket, and pass Medicare for all.
Thank you, Dr. Abdullah.
All right.
Next up, Congresswoman Haley Stevens. You have 1 minute for your.
That was so strong coming out with that stat that if he goes to like 5 minutes down the road, there's a life expectancy change of 10 years. Wow. What an opening statement.
Well, thank you to everyone tuning in tonight. As we know, the stakes of this race couldn't be higher. Costs continue to go up. Our health care, voting rights, civil rights, it's all on the line, in addition to Social Security and Medicare. And if Mike Rogers wins this race, all goes by the wayside. Look, Michigan deserves a senator who can win and who can deliver.
That's why Abdul's gonna win.
On the stage who flipped a Republican seat, and I was named Michigan's most effective Democratic lawmaker in Congress because my only focus is you. Abdul is running for celebrity. Republicans are propping up his campaign, and Mike Rogers just the other day said in
Republicans are propping up your campaign with
makes it easier for him to win, that he's the one he wants to run against. Look, this isn't about the DC or New York influencer crowd. This is about putting Michigan first, and I've got the receipts to do that, which is why Governor Whitmer and so many others are joining my campaign to win in November.
Congresswoman Dr. Al-Sayed, thank you both for your opening statements. Listen, just want to get.
She doesn't even sound like a real person. Like, she legit talks like an NPC.
Give an idea of how we're going to do things a little bit differently from other debates where perhaps it's a little more formalized. This is going to be a conversation where I'm the moderator. I'll ask you questions. The time cues will be given by me. No clocks here. So let's go, and we'll begin with this. So many people have questions about affordability. It's the number one thing we hear about from people. What are they doing in Washington to make sure that life is more affordable for me? Dr. El-Sayed, what are you doing that's something that perhaps we haven't heard before in Washington that's different to keep the cost of living down?
So let me just tell you, for me, it's I don't take money from the corporations who are jacking up your prices in the first place. When you're bought off by DTE and Blue Cross and Big Pharma and Big Tech and APAC, don't be surprised that there's a pro quo that comes with that quid. That money doesn't just fall off trees. $60 million from outside organizations in this race. They just come from nowhere. It's because
Cooker.
the exact same organizations expect something on their
Cooker,
side,
Abdul.
and that's that they get to expect to own your next U.S. senator. So it starts with being able to say, I'm the only candidate in this race who doesn't take any money from corporations. Never have, never will. And then from there, I actually can stand up to them. I can do things like enforce our antitrust policies that haven't been enforced. I can do things like tax billionaires their wealth so we can take that money and invest it in you and your kids, in your schools. I can do things like make sure that rather than sending your money somewhere else to drop bombs on other people and their kids, we can keep that money here at home. And just in case you don't believe me, just think about this. Just last week, our friend here voted to send $3.3 billion of your tax dollars to a foreign government. That is the pro quo that comes with the quid of $30 million spent by APAC. So it really comes down to how are you funded?
They scratch her back and she'll scratch theirs.
Haley Stevens, we heard a lot from Dr. El-Sayed. Some of that was about your record in Washington. I want you to be able to address that, but also tell us what you would do to keep the cost of living down.
Did she really say that?
The crisis is choking us out here in Michigan. You know, everywhere I go, if it's at the fish fry in downtown Detroit, or the working single mom who just the other day told me her healthcare costs continue to go up, that the grocery bill is only getting harder. We don't need lip service. We need action.
We need to give Israel $3.3 billion.
Employees from certain corporations are spending their money, but let me tell you about what I am doing. Because
She's giving $3.5 billion to Israel.
They're ratepayers, and I'm giving them an option. I'm saying DTE, either stop raising rates or lose your federal funds and cut executive pay. Look, we need proven fighters in these positions, and that is what I have done time and time again. I've got the receipts to show it, and this is also why Governor Whitmer and AG Nessel, you know, two proven fighters who want to see results, have endorsed me in this race, because Michigan, it needs a workhorse in the United States Senate, sleeves rolled up, ready to tackle our problems on day one. And I'm not just stopping there. Let's lower the costs of groceries with my bill, no tariffs on groceries.
I do want to get into the weeds a bit with this, because I want to ask you a very direct question that so many people ask us. Are these folks getting money from big utility? Congresswoman Haley Stevens, are you taking money for your campaign from DTE or consumers?
No, but let me say this, Roop. I have been transparent. I have been transparent throughout this campaign, and let me just say this, that
she got 30 grand from DTE. She's lying.
That ever motivates my work is the people of Michigan, the people who I hear from.
30 grand.
You know, my opponent is on these big podcasts. You know, he's running a podcast himself. These folks are making fun of the way I sound, but yet I sound like the people who need help, who are talking to me about what they need.
That was a follow-up to ask the direct question, whether you're taking money from utilities or not. The answer is no. Thank you. Dr. El-Sayed, I'm asking you the same question. Any money from anyone that we don't know about?
No and never, but then $40,000 in direct receipts to her campaign from DTE's corporate PAC. And then
he has the receipts.
Priorities, which released its funders, but then they're behind these shell organizations, these 501c4s. So I'd really like to revisit that question, because I don't know how to explain $40,000 directly to her campaign from DTE.
From DTE. She lied in a debate.
I want to ask both of you about your campaign. campaigns respectively when it comes to certain questions that people have. Congresswoman, we'll begin with you. And we'll
Abdul
dive
should
right
say,
into
how
that
can the
right
people of Michigan trust you when you can't even be honest right now?
And it seems as though on many
Yeah.
instances you haven't directly answered
She
the question.
lied in a
Do
public
you
debate.
see why some people are bothered by the fact that so much money, $40+ million, has come from
good question.
for these PACs to talk about you and to promote you and to put them put you up as their candidate?
Yeah, and I appreciate the question, Root, because this moment in this country and here in Michigan, people have every right to be frustrated about our campaign finance system. My opponent here on this stage, Abdul, he's got a super PAC that his father-in-law funds that has millions of dollars going into it. And look, in terms of foreign policy, you know, Abdul and I do differ. I believe in a two-state solution. He has attacked me by name for purporting that the people of Palestine and the people of Israel deserve to live side by side peacefully. The goal is always long-term peace. And also, the Prime
Abdul
Minister
has to
of
cook her.
Israel has
Please,
attacked
Abdul,
me by
cook
name.
her.
They both
Please cook
represent
her,
the
Abdul.
extremes. Look, Michiganders want peace. They deserve to see peace, and that is where I have always cast my vote, and that is the work that I want to do for Michigan in the U.S. Senate.
Specifically about AIPAC money, more than $46 million has been spent on AIPAC spending to back your campaign. A lot of people wonder if that is something where you're going to do their bidding should you win this seat. Is that something people should be concerned about? And if not, why not?
Great question.
Look, I have been very clear.
Why are they giving you 46 million then?
And I have
Oh my God, Fox is cooking her. Thank you, moderator.
I want to see a two-state solution. I am deeply proud to represent one of the largest Jewish populations in a congressional district.
Tel Aviv impressed.
This is a community that I have breathed alongside.
She really said that. I looked it up. That's an actual quote. She said it at a menorah lighting ceremony.
Working to get us to long-term peace.
But no concern about the $46 million+ spent on the behalf of AIPAC that should worry people about perhaps you doing their bidding should you win the seat.
Well, I don't think there's much difference between
Get her ass!
super PACs going in for Abdul or super PACs going in for me. We have a problem with campaign finance reform in this country. I have an A grading from End Citizens United. I have been endorsed by Defend the Vote. I have voted consistently, and I'm going to stop Mike Rogers
$100 million of
to the United States Senate, which is why he doesn't want
13-1 spending.
like Governor Whitmer is supporting me in this race.
Congresswoman Stevens, thank you. I want to give some equal time here to Dr. El-Sayed, and specifically, I want to talk to you a little bit about
That's insane.
weight that we all feel in this community, which is about the
All
Israel-Palestine.
right, here we go.
It obviously
Here we go.
colored this election greatly. It colors the Democratic Party. How do you see yourself moving forward should you become a senator here?
Oh, he's smiling. He's ready.
Iran, Israel, and Hamas. So I just want to say the difference between us is $46 million of AIPAC spending. They've set a record in this race to help elect my opponent because they know that she'll be a reliable vote, just like she took last week to send your tax dollars to a foreign government that is aiding, arming, and abetting the very people who want to foreclose on the possibility of Palestinian self-determination. Look, at the end of the day, my job is to take care of you here. I want to be your U.S. Senator. I want your tax dollars spent in Michigan to provide schools in Michigan, to build healthcare in Michigan, to build roads in Michigan. And I think that money sent over there to kill
Bro, what is happening? The moderator is actually being
use
decent.
of our tax dollars, and yet
At
exactly
Fox.
what $46 million in spending will buy you. And I believe deeply that we have a responsibility to make sure that we don't make other people's problems worse. So I believe in equal rights to peace, dignity, and self-determination for Palestinians and Jewish Israelis alike. I believe that we should not be fighting stupid wars that AIPAC wants us to fight in the first place. And I believe we have a responsibility to keep our money here, to invest here.
She looks like she's going to vote for him now.
in this race, 12-1, chances are you're going to see an ad
It ended up being 13-1.
on behalf of AIPAC for my opponent in the next commercial break. That's what that buys you, lying about a record around President Obama's endorsement or lying about me and my character. But that's exactly what happens when you stand up and say, maybe Palestinians should have rights too, and maybe we should have rights to our tax dollars here at home. Dr. El-Sayed, I'm going to give Congresswoman a chance to respond as you made a couple of
Can
accusations
she?
there about her record.
Can she?
As I said, I have been transparent, and that is why
She lied.
You just say it, but you haven't been.
You just keep saying you're transparent.
What are the Republicans
What's he hiding?
in
Arab
the general
style.
election that that they will use against him. I am the only non-billionaire in this race. I have been recognized as an effective Democratic lawmaker who, yes, governs in a clear, consistent way on complex challenges. I am beholden to the people of Michigan, the people who I hear
She's
from
beholden to
behind the
Israel.
grocery store line, people who've broken down in tears, asking me how we can address this affordability crisis. And that is what I am doing. That is what I will do on day one. And
After she cashes the check from Israel.
Dana Nessel agrees with me.
Dr. Al-Sayed, I do want to ask you a question about the tone and the tenor of this campaign. It is safe to say that everyone from Washington to Washington Township in Michigan are sick and tired of people pointing fingers, screaming, yelling, and insulting one another. We've seen a lot of that all across the country. Earlier this week, we heard that there was some kind of a Zoom call in which you had referenced an opponent as ogre on a pike. And so many people took offense to that. And it really pointed to the bigger question about the tone and tenor that you've been accused of having in this campaign. Do you regret any of the comments that you've made? And do you think that this race could take a more productive and a more...
Who did he say was an ogre on a pike?
Personal slams out?
Look, I took to Twitter last week and said that the tone in which people talk about my opponent is unkind, and I asked anybody who supported me to not talk about her that way. In fact, when she got booed on the stage at the Michigan Democratic Party convention, I called her personally and said that that was unkind. My supporters had nothing to do with it, but I don't think that that's the way we want to do politics. I was referring
Which is
to
why Haley Stevens should stop attacking me and apologize.
Pennsylvania, who has done
In public ads on TV.
on a set of values and is now completely throwing those values in the mud. And I do think it's important for any senator in Michigan to have a relationship with folks who are in the U.S. Senate. And if those folks are not actually acting in accordance with what they got elected on, I think it's important for all of us to have an
Okay, hold on. I guess Abdul called Senator John Fetterman an ogre on a pike. Apparently he said, ideally, you put one ogre on a pike and then everyone else gets the message. And he later confirmed he meant Fetterman specifically, accusing him of running on progressive values and then abandoning them once he's in office.
honest opinion about what we're
I was talking about that. Democrats don't have a method to enforce pain when somebody deviates from the platform or like the party values.
On behalf of my opponent, UDP, another name for AIPAC, has been running attack ad after attack ad after attack ad on my character. I'm the father of 2 daughters. I'm raising them to be stronger than any man. My wife is a doctor. My mother was the first tenured professor of engineering at her university. I was raised by strong women. To say that somehow, because I wrote an op-ed 15 years ago about First Lady Michelle Obama, or I ran against Governor Whitmer, that somehow I'm disrespecting anybody is just inconsistent with the truth. So I really think it's important
Well said.
for my opponent to speak to why she thinks it's okay to spend $10 million of AIPAC money coming after my character.
Get her
I don't
ass!
understand that, because I went on Twitter and I said that those comments are unkind. I'd like to see the same thing.
Congresswoman, we're going to get to some questions from our audience.
You should have gone harder. You should have gone harder on her.
I don't know. In Michigan, I think that is the right tone for civility, for a civility argument.
Is this something that the ads that
Michigan's not
for them or whether someone else paid for them,
progressive.
doing an injustice to voters by just filling the room with vitriol?
It's
and
purple.
not getting to the issues?
Well, look, there was something else that
Oh
was
my God, this
revealed
moderator
in
keeps
the phone
cooking her.
call
Yeah.
that Abdul was mentioning, which is that he said that he's not going to be able to get much done, that he's not focused on policy for the first 2 years that he is in the United States Senate.
What
that
about
he's gonna be
civility? And she
focused
immediately
on
goes back to
national
attacking Abdul and
politics.
saying,
Again, Michigan needs a workhorse.
How's it going, Bambi Queen Zila? Welcome to chat.
Congressman, respectfully, I do want you to answer the question.
The host is actually hosting!
And look, Abdul's a great guy. He's a great father. You know,
Then why are you attacking him?
saying that, you know, Whitmer's bought and paid for, or that, you know, no one cares about Debbie Stabenow, or that Mallory McMorrow isn't smart enough. You know, that is certainly on him to respond to, which we certainly just did hear from him on that.
Can I
Dr. Al-Sayed, you have a quick minute here.
Look, I told you at the outset that my opponent was going to make this race about me and her. But this is about you. This is about whether or not you deserve a politics of the people.
He's
by the
so
people,
good.
for the people.
He's so good.
Corporations by the billionaires and for the special interests. In an effort to talk about civility, I just took another attack. And I just want you to ask yourself.
He called it out! Ah!
Now, do you deserve a politician more focused on their opponent because they want to be in a seat, Or do you deserve a politics where we're all asking, how do we actually serve you best? Because that's what I'm focused on here in this debate and been focused on for this entire 15-month campaign that we've been running on.
You didn't call me an ogre.
No, again, for the record, it was Mr. Fetterman that was apparently called an ogre in the call, not you. However, I do want to get to some audience questions as well.
Moderator is actually cooking her ass.
Taking your questions at home as well. Just scan the QR screen or text.
They're being honest.
Fox is never this honest.
The bar is so unbelievably low for local media. These guys are on a rocket ship over that bar.
And I think it's noteworthy that one of the reasons we're doing this debate is to contrast the two of you, where you stand on so many issues, but also on how you go about doing your business, how you campaign.
This is so good.
The Democratic Socialists of America have not made an endorsement in this particular race. But when you go to
DSA, baby.
covered so many of them are from that organization. Who are you when it comes to your political stripes? Many people call you progressive. Some have accused you of being a socialist. Not that that's a bad word, but people have said that.
This guy is my goat.
What the fuck?
Politics. How would you describe your politics?
Where do they find?
Michigan, dude.
I want to buy him a beer.
The problems that we face. My governing experience is rebuilding a health department in the city of Detroit, leading Wayne County's Department of Health.
Is this really Fox?
We had to go in there and work with a diverse community to be asking, what are the challenges we face and how do we actually solve them? We were able to identify the fact that our county ranked the number 8 for medical debt nationwide, and we could eliminate that for a penny on the dollar. So we set aside $7 million to erase up to $700 million in medical debt. When kids couldn't get glasses, 30% of them would get tested positive for needing glasses.
Roop Rogers a baller.
We put optometrists on vans outside of schools so that as soon as a kid got a positive test, they go out, get a full optometric exam, and get a pair of glasses delivered within 2 weeks of a vision test. Now, working with a diverse community of people, you come to realize that not every solution fits the same way. You've got to be thinking about a solution in the right way. When it comes to the question of socialism, I'm not a socialist. I'm just a capitalist who understands how capitalism works. The biggest threat to capitalism was never the idea of government regulation. It was always monopoly. I want you to think about the stuff that you have to buy, whether it's your groceries and the number of stores you can go to, or it's buying a flight to see your grandmother, or it's picking a phone or a phone provider. You have like 2 or 3 options. And that shouldn't be legal, but that's the way our economy works right now. So I think government ought to be there to regulate on monopolies and oligopolies so that everybody can actually participate in an economy without having to be forced to pay more or get paid less for the work they do.
Congresswoman Stevens, another question about your campaign. We've seen just in the last.
It's a good angle for his market.
Sanders, we've seen AOC, and we've seen Elizabeth Warren just today, and they're all behind Abdul. These are the people who worked with you in the same room, have watched you for your 4 terms. Should that concern voters that they're taking the outsider's side in this case? You have a minute and a half.
Well, I think that we should look at the fact that Brenda Lawrence, my longtime mentor and dear friend, Congresswoman from Oakland County representing
Look at all my endorsements. All my endorsements. Don't look at the endorsers
Senator Stabenow,
on the
Senator
financial
Peters,
side.
who, like myself, has been recognized as the most effective lawmaker for our state. But let me be really clear.
I'm a workhorse. I'm an effective legislator. What are you going to do? What are your policies? Explain what.
Most of the policies these criminals are using nowadays are on par, if not more mature.
Hassan crashing out will never not be funny. That was real. He's like, he's playing one fucking policy. That was good. That was really good.
I have visited hundreds of small to mid-sized manufacturing shop floors. I operated CNC machines in my life previous to being in elected office. I have a deep passion for the bread and butter of our state. And
He's talked about all these economic things, and she's just talking about Michigan and bread and butter.
To lick the bootstraps of China and start a trade war with Canada, screwing us over and selling us down the river, I will be standing up for us and securing things like what I.
This is strong. This sells in Michigan and the Midwest.
For our youth and equity and inclusion. important to our future. Jobs for everyone, lower costs, and yeah, stop these abuses of power that are coming down from Trump and Rogers.
She has
who are
no
treating it like the
policies.
stock
I'm
trading
losing it.
floor.
Congresswoman
The
Haley
only thing
Stevens,
she can
Dr.
say is, I
Al-Sayed,
voted for the
thank you
Chips
so much for your
Sisak.
time.
That's
We're not
it.
done at all. In fact, the debate is only halfway through. Our conversation continues.
Roop Raj, you are my goat. You are my goat. You are a legend.
Roop Raj is kind of he's kind of lit.
So low, the bar is so low, but the moderation I've seen so far from Michigan local broadcasters has been immaculate. It's been spectacular.
Mwah.
Okay, the reason why I say this is not because like Roop Raj is you know in the pocket of Abdul Al-Sayed or anything. No, he's just being truthful.
He's being
actually
honest.
Holding an indirect answer as not enough. That's why he just keeps asking the same question. Because Haley Stevens, if you recall,
She's
I
not
told you
actually
this,
answered the
Haley
questions.
Stevens never answers a direct question.
She hasn't.
Never answered a direct question.
She literally
She's
hasn't.
yokel right? Oh, I'm a Yooper. I got a Yooper accent. I love Michigan. I'm gonna fight for Michigan over and over again. Roop
Yeah.
Raj don't play those games. Roop Raj says, I don't give a. I'm Michigan too.
I'm Michigan too.
Mother. Answer the god question.
Can you answer the fucking question?
Is great. I got the receipts. Oh, I'm from Michigan. Abdul is a scary Muslim. He hates women. That's all Haley Stevens.
That's
is
all she's
deployed so
got.
far.
Yeah.
One of the great moments in that debate. One of the great moments in that debate was when Abdul was like, "Look, what? It's just. What kind of politics do you want to see? Do you
I
wanna
just
see
literally
politics,
apologize for my
instability, and constantly
my
attacking
party, my group, and then she attacks me while she's responding to that attack.
Issues. That was awesome. That was awesome.
That was really well. He planted his
It's
feet.
just- yeah, can't run from the Raj, dude. Yeah, even when she was like, "Oh, you called me an ogre," and he had to literally correct her and be like, "No, he called
No,
Senator John
it's John
Fetterman an
Fetterman.
ogre." As a Uber, she does not sound like a Uber. I don't know what her deal is, but she's not one of us. I know I've heard Ubers also say that. Do you agree with him being a capitalist, or do you think he was skirting the question and not supporting socialism? I don't care. I don't care that Abdul Al-Sayed running for Senate says he's a capitalist, DSA supporter, okay? It doesn't matter to me. His policy platform is near identical to Bernard Sanders, okay? That's what I care about, especially considering that Zoran Mamdani is not exactly running on a platform of seizing the means of production, and no democratic socialist is running on this platform. I don't give a I do think this is the last election cycle where someone will run for
Try to make
statewide
things
office
better.
while shying away from adopting the moniker. I will tell you that. This will be the last statewide office, the last election cycle where people running for statewide office will shy away from saying that they're socialists. That's what I think. Uper is someone raised in the Upper Peninsula. She's from Detroit, which is a long ways from the up. I know. I know she hams it up. We know she's not. We know she's not.
She's just
like,
a character.
being legit.
She's
The reason
selling
why she
a
hams
story.
up her accent is specifically because it's a great way to deflect from her position. She always will deflect and be like, "Oh, it's just they're attacking me. They're attacking my positions." Haley Stevens denied taking money from DTE's Energy PAC. We checked. She did. Yeah.
When we talk about ICE, this is something that obviously has seemed to kind of calm down a bit, but it's still fundamentally important. to everyone who's
It's just
watching
not
right
as
now.
visible.
Congresswoman Stevens, where do you stand on ICE and the funding for ICE and where things should be going?
Well, I am leading the charge in the Congress right now to redirect $70 billion of your tax money, Michiganders' taxpayer money, that went to ICE at the expense of your health care, at the
fuck
expense
ICE.
of food benefits, all things that I am hearing from Michiganders where they are experiencing pain points. We've got to redirect that $70 billion back into communities. I called for Kristi Noem to go. She was fired. But guess what? No reforms. Not a penny more for this rogue agency that is wreaking havoc. Look, I've talked to administrators at Harms Elementary in Detroit, parents who are afraid to drop their kids off for school because of these ICE raids. This isn't working for us. This is abuse of power. And I am standing up to Trump right now on these abuses of power, not shouting into a bullhorn, not getting in front of the first camera I see, but doing the hard work. That is what Michigan deserves. Look, my opponent here, Abdul, he is such a talented guy. He's written 3 books. He's had 300 podcasts. He's had all this attention. But the deal is we don't need a celebrity candidate. We don't need a celebrity senator. We need somebody
She's trying to sell him as a celebrity?
to 6 years of hard,
He's a
unglamorous
doctor.
Who's calling a celebrity literally work for the Detroit Public Health Department, by the way.
Yeah.
Chaos right before our very eyes. It's unacceptable.
All right,
He's a public worker.
Dr. El Sayed, you heard Congresswoman Stevens there say, essentially, strip away some of the funding for ICE. Is that not good enough?
Well, she's also voted to raise ICE funding 4 times. That's the part
Get her
that
ass.
she didn't hear. 4 times voted to raise ICE funding. Voted to thank ICE, in fact. So this is the same kind of DC hypocrisy, I hate to say it, that we often see. Say one thing in front of a camera, do another thing. I said that we need to abolish ICE. Yes. ICE is not about immigration. ICE is not about the southern border. We can have a safe and secure southern border. We can also enforce immigration policy. But ICE is not about that. ICE is about normalizing paramilitary force on our streets.
Yeah.
And I just want to push back on the idea that
What
it
is this
calmed
camera
down.
angle? What the
I
fuck's
was
going on?
just in Genesee County this weekend, and you had
It's a really weird camera angle.
People are scared to death, and we've got a congresswoman who tells you that she's against ICE, has voted to raise ICE funding, voted to thank
We're
ICE.
looking at his right shoulder.
The people who work in ICE, I don't know, very fine public servants and other things when she went and visited herself. So I'm just saying that I do the thing that I say I'm going to do.
That was pretty
I don't think
damning.
ICE needs to exist. For the better part of our country's history, we did not have an ICE, and I think we can do a much better job when it comes to immigration without one. And here's the last thing I just want to say about this.
No notes.
When it
No
comes
notes.
to the question
None.
of immigration, we need Democrats who are going to stand up and actually talk about the great good that immigration has done for our country in the first place.
Yeah.
Somehow we can't say abolish ICE because we're so afraid of what they're going to say when we've seen ICE terrorize people in our streets. To me, it is exactly the kind of cowardice that we don't need from Democrats. So yeah, I'm going to take the bullhorn.
Boosting that
and
he's
I'm
a
going to say
fighter.
that I think we need to abolish ICE because I am not afraid of what they're going to say about me.
Doctor, I do want to follow up though. with both of you. Isn't saying abolish ICE like saying defund the police? Is that just busting the whole thing open? Or do you believe that in order to have enforcement, you need to have an agency that knows how to do it?
Yeah, well, I just also ran government agencies. And I know that when a culture of impunity sets into a government agency, it becomes almost impossible to take out. And so I think the agency as it exists does not need to exist. That's not to say that we are not going to keep our streets secure. That's not to say that we're not going to enforce immigration policy. That's not to say we shouldn't have a safe, secure southern border. The same way we did it for most of our history, Roop.
Yeah,
For
INS.
most of our history, we didn't have ICE. We had INS. And they were targeted. They
Yes.
obeyed the laws of this land. They didn't
Yes.
terrorize people
It's
in places like
paperwork crimes.
schools and
It's not a real
parking lots.
crime.
Exactly.
They were caught up in schools and churches. They understood that their job, yes, was to enforce immigration policy, but they did it under the protection of the Constitution itself. And that's what we're losing here. You've got ICE agents who do not understand that the central law of this country is the Constitution itself. ICE has become a tyrannical agency, and I think there is no way to
Do you
get
think
past that
misogyny
except
might
for
play a
to
role in
undo the
boosting
agency
Abdul over? No.
and then build from scratch.
It's a Democratic primary.
Congresswoman, you have been on video saying on social media before about the fine people of ICE. Do you feel differently about that? Do you believe that both can be true, that there needs to be reform, but there are people working with it?
God!
Let me just be very clear.
Can you?
And slogans
by the Baltimore
aren't solutions, all right? I went up to an ICE detention facility to call out and see why people were losing their lives.
Roop Raj, a real Baltimore Maoist,
time without
teaching socialism to make it better.
Outrage. And look, a lot of you remember Abdul from when he first ran for governor in 2018. It didn't work out. So he started the podcast, he wrote the books, and now he's running for Senate. And he's
All she does is
for president.
attack Abdul.
All she does is attack him.
Oh, he's too famous.
Is for me.
Not answering the question. Answer the question.
She's not answering the question.
This is about that Mike Rogers doesn't get
Mike Rogers.
We're talking about ICE.
Famous.
What about ICE?
Endorsed by Gretchen Whitmer. Say something direct.
For this state and for our values, for our rights and our freedoms. And I promise you, Michigan, I will make us shine.
But what about ICE?
People watching this right now, and every time they hear this podcast business, they're scratching their heads. They're putting food on the table, gas in the tank. They're curious to know what that's about. Have you made a ton of money because of podcasts?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I told all the viewers at the outset that while my opponent was going to make this about me and her, I want to make this about you. Somehow she just really, you can listen to the podcast. It's there. Congresswoman, if you enjoy podcasts about public health, I welcome you to take a listen. You seem very concerned about that. I'm more concerned about the fact that people can't pay for their gas, they can't pay for their groceries. We're fighting a war that's cost us billions of dollars, that has been pushed by the government of a foreign country, the same foreign country that the folks paying for your ads want us to send billions of dollars.
Cook her ass.
That's the thing that I think Michiganders really want to understand. They're not that worried about the fact that I hosted a podcast. They're worried about the fact that right now, for a lot
She
of
looks
folks,
shook.
their kids go to schools that are unbecoming.
She looks shook.
Of their future. They are worried about the fact that they can't gas up their car because it costs, what, $4.50 a gallon? They're worried about the fact that the same corporations who funded your campaign are raising rates on the things that they can't go without, like their power. So I'd really like us to focus on the things that actually matter, which have nothing to do with the podcast, have everything to do with the future of Michiganders that we would like to serve.
If she mentions the podcast again.
About transparency. And you have not released your full tax returns. $300,000 in other income.
It's a very
You sat on
Trump.
the podcast chair and you hawked junk healthcare cures that RFK Jr. would thumbs up. You talk about getting
Junk
money in
healthcare
context and
cures.
putting money in people's pockets, but still no one knows who's putting the money in your pocket. You know, I have been transparent and I am offering.
You have not.
No, she just lied about taking money from DTE.
You did, but you also made some accusations here. Dr. El-Sayed, that is a question that some people may have that Congresswoman's talking about. Talk about the money and the financial disclosures. You were going to release some.
We released all of our financial disclosures. Again, this is a distraction from the issues in your life.
But not
I'd love to talk about transparency. I really would. Because I want you to ask yourself, there is this group called the Center for Democratic Priorities. They didn't exist until they popped up and started running ads for my opponent. And then there's this other group called Center Forward that paid for a flight for the Congresswoman and her mother to go to Portugal. And they just released their donors, and then it's a whole bunch of shell 501c4 organizations. They're the folks who are literally putting money in our pockets right now to try and mis and disinform us about this race. And here's the thing about it. None of it actually makes your life better. Think about the $60 million that got spent in this race. What could $60 million do for a community in Detroit? What could $60 million mean for erasing medical debt? I'll tell you, $6 billion it could erase. But they want to spend it to get the Congresswoman elected. Why? Because at the end of the day, they know that they're going to have a safe seat doing their bidding instead of yours. Every single dollar that DTE is
He is winning by a mile.
That Blue Cross Blue Shield spends in this race is a down payment on
So good.
every single dollar.
Thank you, Dr.
comes with
El-Sayed.
something.
I want to ask some more questions from our audience at home right now. You're texting us. I got them right here. The next question is, how will you ensure low-income communities receive equitable and adequate education? You've heard so many people say Michigan ranks 44th when it comes to literacy for fourth graders. Let's start with Congresswoman Haley Stevens. What are you doing now? What do you plan to do?
Well, we are certainly being robbed by Washington, D.C. and Donald Trump, who treats the Oval Office like a stock trade floor. This is why I want to end the corruption of seeing people who want to be celebrities or get famous or rich in office. I want to ban stock trading. Folks, I'm the only non-millionaire in this race. But let me tell you something about
He's a doctor.
what I have worked on and what I am fighting for. Full funding for special education. You know, our public schools here in Michigan are getting...
That's the first policy thing she's mentioned.
And if we fully fund special education, we can meet the needs that a family in Royal Oak has talked to me about, where they feel torn.
Finally, she's talking about a policy.
their
This is
child
her first
with
time, I think.
First time.
Complex medical needs actually get the education they deserve.
She
This
is falling
also why
apart.
we have
She
to
feels
expand
frazzled.
Medicaid,
You can
not
see it.
just
Yeah, you can see it. She's losing
Donald
really
Trump.
bad.
We have got
And she didn't ever answer the question about ICE.
And I consider myself a warrior for public education.
We're here because...
All right, chat. That's most of the debate. That's what I got time for. I got to head to a thing that I want to do. So we're going to go ahead and end stream early today. We're going to go ahead and raid out. But thanks for being here. This was really, really enlightening debate. I mean, this is what we're going to be seeing from American politics moving forward. It's socialism without the name. That's basic. We're entering an era where like everybody wants socialism. Everybody expects socialism. Socialism's what's getting things done, but nobody's calling it by name. And I mean, with a government that's actively making executive orders against leftism, and makes sense, but this is weird. Like we need socialism. Like, why can't we just call it socialism? It's really weird. All right, I'm going to go ahead and head out, stand by for the raid. And yeah, thanks for being here. I'm glad y'all were here. I'll see y'all tomorrow for Retro Review Tuesdays. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to be playing, but it should be chill. I'll see you soon. Bye.